So today we're going to be writing equations in slope-intercept form. Of course, you need the slope and the y-intercept. You need the m and the b to be able to write the equation. So let's, before even beginning this lesson, let's go to the class opener. Number 1 says, write the equation of the line that has m equals 2 and b equals 3. So if you know slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, then you should be able to write the equation in slope-intercept form. So of course our m value is given to us right here and our b value is given to us right here. So we could actually write it in slope-intercept form. Y equals 2x plus 3 is the b value. Whoops, let me see, plus 3. So that's your equation in slope-intercept form. The next one says write the equation of the line that has a slope 4 and the y-intercept of 5. So instead of them telling us that the b value is 3, they tell us that the y-intercept is 5. It's the same thing, right? The y-intercept is the b value. So they still are giving you the slope, the m value, and they're still giving you the 5, the b value. So let's write it. Y equals mx plus b, 4x plus b, which is plus 5. Let's continue on. Let's continue on to number 3. Let me make this a little smaller over here. Number 3 says, write the equation of the line that has a slope of 3 over 2 and crosses the y-axis at 4. So y equals mx plus b. What's the m? The m is 3 over 2. Of course, that is with an x. And then plus b. That's plus the y-intercept value. And if they tell you in words that it crosses the y-axis, that's really the y-intercept value. That's really the b value. So they're giving you the b value of 4. And there's your equation, y equals 3 halves x plus 4. The next one, write the equation of the line that has the y-intercept of 1/2. You see, I put this one on here so you could pay attention to what you're reading. I'm telling you that it has the y-intercept of 1/2. That is the b value. So the b value is 1/2. Don't think that just because you see a fraction that has to be the rise over run, that has to be the slope. Because right here on this problem, it clearly says that the slope is -5. So the m value is -5. So let's write it out. Y equals mx plus b, -5x plus b plus 1/2. And that is your slope-intercept form equation. And it's okay to have fractions even in the b value. Okay. Let's move on to number 5. Number 5 reads, write the equation of the line that crosses the y-axis. Again, right there, crosses the y-axis. That's telling you y-intercept. That's telling you your b value right there. So -3 is your b value. And it says it has no slope. Interesting. Okay, so that means that the slope is 0 if it has no slope. And we already know that the b value is -3. So if you want to write it in y equals mx plus b form, it's going to be y equals m, which happens to be 0 because there is no slope. And 0, the slope always has the x right next to it, plus the b value, which in this case happens to be -3. So you could write plus -3, or the nicer thing to do to make it look nicer is just to write -3 instead of plus -3. Now, this is your answer. However, if you're taking a multiple choice test, the computer's not going to bother writing 0 x's, right? 0 x's means that there is no x's. So what the computer's going to write is simply y equals -3. So this guy is okay, but this is the better answer, y equals -3. Now, don't say, oh, there's no slope, so I'm just going to write the x with no number. If there's no number, that means that the slope is 1 over 1. But right here, this is 0 x's. That means that this disappears. So technically, yeah, don't write that. Just write it as y equals -3. All right, let's move on. Number 6, write the equation of the line that crosses the x-axis. Okay, so they're not giving us the y-intercept. They're telling us right here with this information that it crosses the x-axis at 3. And it crosses the y-axis, this is the b value, crosses the y-axis at -2. Okay, so we always need two things to write any equation. We need the m value and we need the b value. So far, they've given us the b value, which is -2. And the only way to find m would be to count rise over run, and the only way to count rise over run is to draw it. Okay, so let's do a quick sketch here. It crosses the x-axis at 3, so this is my x, and it goes 1, 2, 3, crosses right there. Let me put a dot right there. And it crosses the y-axis at -2, -1, -2. Let me put a dot right there. So because I know that it crosses the x at 3 and the y at -2, I could draw a line passing right through those 2 points. And if I do draw that line, I will clearly see that my slope is from one point to the other. You look at it from left to right. Is it going up or is it going down? It's obviously going up from left to right. So it has to be a positive slope. How much do you actually go up? You go up 1 unit, 2 units, and you run 1, 2, 3. So it is 2 over 3. 2 over 3. Let's now go to the equation itself, because since we have the m and we have the b, we could now write it in y equals mx plus b form. Y equals m 2 over 3 x plus b minus 2. And that's your y equals mx plus b equation. Y equals 2/3 x minus 2. Number 7. Write the equation of the line that crosses the x-axis at 2 and crosses the y-axis at -4. Once again, you always need two things to write an equation in slope-intercept form. You need the m and you need the b. However, right here they give you the information that it crosses the x-axis at 2. That's not an m or a b. And it crosses the y-axis. This is the b value at -4. So b is -4, but we still need the m. So what we're going to do here is just sketch it so we could find the m by counting rise over run. So it crosses the x-axis at 2. So here's my x, here's my y. It crosses the x-axis at 1, 2. I want to put a dot right there. And then it crosses my y-axis at -4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I put a dot right there. Okay. So because it crosses here at -4 on the y and here at +2 on the x, I know that my line goes right through those 2 dots. And now I could actually count my rise over run. Even though this is an ugly sketch of a graph, I could still count that it rises 1, 2, 3, 4, and over 1, 2. So my slope is up 4 over 2. Okay. Now, could I reduce that? Yes. Whenever you have a fraction in math that you could reduce, you might as well reduce it. That'll become 2. So what's my y equals mx plus b equation? It's going to be y equals 2x minus 4. There you go, y equals mx plus b. Now let's move on to number 8. It says write an equation of a line that crosses the x-axis at 4 and does not cross the y-axis. Again, right here I need to start sketching the description of this line in order for me to get a visual, in order for me to be able to write the equation. So this is crosses the x-axis at 4. So here's my x. 1, 2, 3, 4. Crosses right here. And that's not even my b value. That's just some information that it crosses the x-axis at 4. And now it says that it does not cross the y-axis. So if it doesn't cross, here's the y. If this line that crosses the x does not cross the y, it must be a perfectly vertical line. Because that blue line right there that's vertical, it'll never cross the y-axis. Okay? Now, whenever we have these special case lines that are either perfectly vertical or perfectly horizontal, we need to remember that it's either x equals a number or y equals a number. So because we know that this line crosses the x-axis at 4, then what's the equation going to be? It's simply going to be x equals 4. Okay? And that's your actual equation. Now, if you're thinking, well, what about finding the m and what about finding the b? Well, this slope is undefined if it doesn't cross the y-axis, and the b value, it doesn't even exist. It never crosses the y-axis, right? This blue line will never touch the y-axis. It goes perfectly straight up, just like the y goes perfectly straight up. Goes perfectly straight down, just like the y goes perfectly straight down. It doesn't ever go this way and cross. So the b value doesn't even exist. You cannot write this equation in y equals mx plus b form. Can't do it. Why not? Because there's not even a y. It's just x equals 4. That's your answer. Let's go to number 9. Write the equation of the line that crosses the y-axis at -½ and does not cross the y-axis. Let me put this over here. Let me make this a little bigger. Okay, so it crosses the y-axis. That's our b value fit. So y-intercept crosses the y-axis at -½ That's our b value. So b is -½ And then it says that it does not cross the x-axis. Again, if you make a sketch and it says that it crosses not at -1, not at -2, but it crosses the y-axis at -½ So here's -½ It's just halfway down to -1. So let's put a dot right there. And it says it does not cross the x-axis. So here's my x-axis. If a line goes through this dot and it never touches my x-axis, it must be perfectly parallel to it. It must be perfectly flat, perfectly horizontal. So drawing my line that'll never cross the x-axis, it's going to be going like this, perfectly flat, left to right. So a perfectly horizontal line, what kind of equation is that? That equation is a y equals whatever that value is of the y-axis that it crossed through. So y equals, what is that y value that it crossed through? It crossed through -½ Okie dokie, let's move to the next one. Number 10, find the slope of the line that passes through -1, -3, and 1, 1. So this is back from a previous section of us finding the slope with the slope formula. And you need to have this memorized. So m equals y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So where do we get these values from? From the coordinates. They give you an x value, a y value, they give you an x value and a y value. It doesn't matter which one you call the first point, which one you call the second point, as long as you name them, right? Number them. So this is going to be my first point, this is going to be my second point. So I put the slope formula with the division and the subtractions in black, so you could always start off with that, and then you plug in your y2 value, which happens to be 1, put it right there. So our y2 value is 1, our y1 value is -3, our x2 value is 1, and our x1 value is -1. And I start with the division and the subtraction so you could see the minus minus very clearly, which will remember, or it'll remind you to change it to a plus plus. Plus plus, and of course do the math. 1 plus 3 is 4, 1 plus 1 is 2, so your slope is 4 over 2, but 4 over 2, the slope is really 4 divided by 2 is 2, and that's your answer for this problem. And the reason why we're reviewing this on the class opener is because it's a skill that you're going to need on this lesson right here, writing slope-intercept form equations. So let's move on to number 11. Number 11 says to find the value of A when B equals -2, C equals 3, and D equals -5. So this is really also a review question from a long time ago, where I give you values and you need to evaluate it. You need to plug it in and solve for the missing value. So they want us to find the value of A. So I need to find out what A is, knowing, so A is going to equal B times C plus D. I always recommend put parentheses in place of the values, in place of the letters, so you could plug in your values. So we're plugging in the B value of -2 right here. We're plugging in the C value of 3 right here. And we're plugging in the D value of -5 right here. So now we need to do the math. A equals what? Well, if I do -2 times 3, that's -6 plus -5. That means that A equals -11. That's my answer. Let's move on to number 12. Once again, similar problem. They give us values. They want us to plug it in to work it out. They want us to find the value of D this time, okay? So now they want us to find the value of D, giving us A, B, and C. So let's plug in our A, B, and C. Once again, rewrite the whole equation, but with parentheses instead of the letters. So instead of A, I put parenthesis equals B times C, that's parenthesis times parenthesis. And then the D value is what we're solving for, so I'm actually going to leave that D value as D. It doesn't say up here D equals 2, so I could plug in 2 in parentheses. So we don't know D, that's what we're trying to find out what D is. So let's plug in our A value. Our A value is -2, so I'm going to put that over here on this side. Our B value is 3 right here, so I'm going to put the 3 right there. Our C value is -5, so I put -5 right there. And when we work this out, I will get, well, there's nothing to do on the left side. -2 in parentheses is still going to be -2. But over here, 3 times -5, that's -15, and I still have the plus D. Now, they are asking us to find the value of D. So we need to get D by itself. So I'm going to do the opposite, plus 15, and I will get 13 equals D, D equals 13. And that's our value of D. So I know you're thinking, man, these are a lot of old skills we've done, but we're going to have to use all of these old skills to be able to do today's lesson on the next video, because this video is already too long. This video is technically just the class opener, but you need to watch the next video that I'm going to make, which is the actual lesson on writing slope-intercept form equations when I give you a point and a slope. It's easy to write a slope-intercept form equation when I give you a slope and a y-intercept, but if I give you a point and a slope, we need to do a lot of work, and we'll get to that on the next video.